folks, welcome to another episode of Dynamic Discussions. We're joined by Gary Wasdin with the Leather Archives and Museum, otherwise known as LA&M. Fantastic organization. I mean, really dedicated to the history and preserving the history of leather. I'm going to start off just by thanking you, Gary, so much for taking the time to do this. I know you got to be so crazy right now.
Thanks, Mac. Yeah, it's a pleasure. Glad to be with you all.
Absolutely. So really what we want to do is just introduce the museum and the archives to our community and to anyone who will hear the message. Can you give us a little background? When did the LA&M start and how did it start? What was the whole mission behind it?
Sure. So this is actually our 30th anniversary. We were founded in 1991. And yeah, it has both changed dramatically and at the same time not changed at all in many ways from what our original purpose and intent was. So we were founded by Chuck Renslow, who was, one of the kind of key figures in leather history, probably known to most people as the founder of International Mr. Leather, and here in Chicago.
Oh, okay.
Also owned and operated one of the first leather bars in the U.S. and ran one of the Beefcake Studio photography studios here in Chicago. So really kind of big figure in leather history. And his partner was an artist who painted under the name of Etienne, who was also one of the more successful and better known leather artists. And Etienne died in the early 90s from AIDS. And around that same time, Chuck was kind of wrestling with this idea about how do we preserve history? And, this is in the height of the AIDS epidemic when so much history was being lost. And he came up first with the idea, interestingly, of creating an LGBT history museum and archive. And actually, that's how we were first incorporated in 91. But almost the minute he incorporated it as the National Gay and Lesbian Archive, several people kind of convinced him that plenty of people were doing that, but what was being lost was specifically leather history. So they immediately changed to the name and changed the mission to Leather Archives and Museum with a focus specifically on leather history. And our mission, the wording has changed slightly over the years, but the intent is the same, which is to collect and preserve the history of the marginalized leather community. And to make that available here, both for researchers, but also for community members who just want to learn more, or just people who are curious and want to find out more and just stop by the museum or, read, do a little research in our library, to explore kind of the big umbrella of leather. When we talk about leather, for us, we use that as kind of this broad umbrella term from the perspective of our collection. So we're talking about really broadly kink, fetish, BDSM, all kind of under that big leather umbrella. So yeah, that's still what we do today, and it's across all genders, all sexual orientations. So it's it's not just like gay leather, which is what everybody thinks of, but straight, pansexual, sure, bisexual, men, women, trans women, all aspects of that leather history that are documented here.
Yeah, the leather community is spread wide, right?
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
Absolutely. How long have you been involved over there?
So I've been here for just over, actually a little more than I guess 3.5 years now. A year and a half of which is a blur from COVID over the last time. So I feel like I just finally had figured out what I was doing and what was going on, and then boom, the world shut down. But this past January was my 3-year anniversary.
How are you? How is the archive and museum doing coming out of COVID, coming out of the pandemic? Are y'all doing okay?
Yeah, it's been rough. It's been financially, which of course, for any organization, that's the big thing. We almost immediately when all this happened, we kind of scaled back everything dramatically. I did unfortunately have to lay off most of my staff, but we just had to kind of hunker down and save as much money as possible. So, on the one hand, we did pretty well. For a small organization, it's not easy just to survive. But fortunately, we're 100% community supported, mostly by individuals. There's not a whole lot of government grants out there for a place like this. So, people stepped up, and so, we did fine last year. This year is in some ways a little rougher, just because even though we're coming out of the pandemic, people are exhausted, B, broke from so much unemployment and just the struggles and stress of getting through all of this. So it's a rough year again this year, but we're keeping our head above water and staying afloat, and we're continuing to work. We are open again to the public, which is great. So we
are you open full time now?
We're still a little bit reduced hours. We'll kind of gradually build up. Fortunately, we have a lot of volunteers to help us, serve the public. So we'll probably expand our hours a little bit later this summer, just once we kind of get our feet under us again.
Absolutely. Now, you guys have a lot of online resources as well. I was trying to go through some of them myself. Can you talk a little bit about that? So folks who cannot maybe get to Chicago right now because of what's going on, can they still enjoy some of the stuff you offer?
Right. One of the things, so we've always, of course, had a pretty strong virtual presence, but one of the nice things as kind of a side product of COVID is that we were able to put a little bit more time and energy into our online content. So, anyone from any place can come to our website, leatherarchives.org. And, there's a lot there. There's some curated exhibitions, a lot of oral histories and interviews with individuals from, leather and kink events and organizations. For the archives and the research collections themselves, only a tiny fraction of it is digitized, but there is some out there that's digitized, which again, especially if you're just, casual interest, if you're not doing a major research project, there is some really cool stuff to browse through. And a lot of it, for many of us is nostalgia, just some of the from the old bars and bar posters and event posters and flyers that, many of us went to, this, and most of our collections date back to 1950s forward, when kind of the leather movement started here. So, lots of really cool stuff like that people can browse and look at online. And we also do, online programs. We started as soon as kind of COVID locked us down, we started doing a monthly online lecture program that features a different person every month, talking about leather and kind of their role in the leather community and their perspectives on both kind of leather past and leather future and kind of what's going on. And we do figure drawing classes, which are also available online. And, those are really fun for people who, especially if you're not very good, you can do it at home and nobody has to see what you're drawing. But we have, really hot kink and fetish models that are here in Chicago, and we just set up our, camera, and people can participate through Zoom on that. So yeah, there's a lot that people can join in on and have a good time with, really regardless, no matter where in the world they are.
Very nice. What if we were to come, let's say we come to the Archive Museum, what are some of the exhibits that we're going to see? And one of the things I like was I saw you have this rotating artist thing. So, you're going to always see new things if you come on a
right, exactly. Yeah, we try to keep it mixed up. So we have something called the Guest Artist Gallery, which of course very effectively spells out gag. And there we try to rotate out exhibits, so there's always something fresh and new. Those are materials that are not in our permanent collection. So sometimes it's a contemporary artist. Right now we have Jim Wigler, who was one of the early leather photographers for Drummer Magazine and other publications. Still does leather photography for like The Advocate and some of the other online sources. So yeah, that's constantly changing. We try to do, a pretty steady stream of new exhibits there. And the rest of the space, it's a pretty big building. We're about 10,000 square feet. So it's two
wow,
stories.
that's really big.
Yeah, so we have exhibits, one dedicated to leather clubs and organizations, and that includes everything from like pin collections and run vests, and a whole exhibit on boot black and leather care and preservation and kind of that whole movement. We have a really great leather preservation person, Leslie Anderson, who works here, who was the first international Miss Boot Black. And so there's an exhibit on kind of boot blacking, but also just generally on the kind of care and treatment of leather. We have Fakir, who was a very well-known piercer who died a couple of years ago. And so we have an exhibit of piercing and body modification with a lot of both photography of some really intense body piercings, as well as equipment and artifact pieces for people who are interested in that. Yeah, and then we have a very special designated exhibit for women in leather, which looks and addresses specifically some of the women who played such significant roles in leather history. And again, both image photography collections as well as artifacts, leather. There's lots here from different aspects of fetish play. So, like pony play. There's a whole exhibit on pony play and kind of what that entails, and piss play and fisting. I mean, anything and everything kind of has an opportunity here. We have a dungeon space that has exhibits of both kind of toys and equipment that's designed specifically for sex, so like slings, fuck benches, and some of the toys, as well as pervertibles, which is one of my favorite things, which are household items, because God knows we're creative when it comes to getting off. So some really fun exhibits of just things around the house, especially in the kitchen, that people have kind of modified or used for pleasure. And some just really beautiful artwork, some pieces that were hanging in bars in the 50s and 60s, especially some leather art and erotic art, some really amazing erotic photography pieces. So we've got films and movies that we show here as part of the exhibits. So yeah, it's a really fun place. It's the kind of place you come, for a couple of hours and just kind of immerse yourself. And most people who come, are kind of walk through, almost in shock because they have no idea that stuff like this exists. And for most of our lives, all of this stuff is kept very hush hush and secret and, in the dark. And to come to an entire museum that is dedicated to this and puts it out there, with no shame, and here it is, we're proud of who we are and what we enjoy. People are just like amazed to see that this exists and that they can come here and actually enjoy this, ask questions and learn.
Absolutely. The reason I'm so excited about being able to come try to visit you guys is, you see, for people who didn't grow up with leather or haven't been around. I mean, I've only been around for about a decade. There's so much misinformation about leather out there and the lifestyle of leather. And I have some very good friends of mine who are leather, patch leather, and thank God I have them, right? So I think it's nice to have that, because someone could literally come to the museum and spend, like you said, a few hours, 2-3 hours, and really get a history and understanding of what the truth is.
Exactly. Yeah, right. And I think that's important. It's it's we all come to this from a different point and place in our lives and what it means to us. But there's something powerful to see everything that's behind it and all of the people that came before, because we are by no means a perfect society, and there are immense challenges that people face now. But it is amazing to see some of these individuals and pioneers who, were doing what we do in the 1950s. I mean, if you can imagine how hard it is to be a leather player, to be in the scene today, flashback to 1953 and just imagine what this was like. So it's very powerful to see, this history that is our history. One of the things I love and is very moving to watch is, people will come through very often and they'll see something that kind of, clicks with them. Either an individual, they'll see someone's name or something that is somebody they know, or they'll see a club that they belong to, or even just, a kind of sex they enjoy. And just that sort of instant moment when they're like, wow, I'm not the only one, or this matters, or, this is something that is not preserved anywhere else in the world. And, here it is right here, being saved. And it's just, we, humans all want to belong, and we want to belong to something bigger than us. And that's kind of what this is it shows that there's a whole world of people, both past and present, that are part of our kind of extended family, if you will. And yeah, it's just a very powerful, moving experience to recognize that.
Absolutely. Let's talk a little bit about how can people from around the world who are interested in helping, maybe they can't get to the museum, but I know you can donate. I know you have, I went through your shop, which was, there is some really cool stuff.
Right.
And then what about, membership? I saw there was a membership option. Let's get it out there. How can people help and support the museum?
There are so many ways. We try to make it as easy as possible, and quite frankly, as fun as possible to support us. In many ways, we are just like a traditional museum or library, or nonprofit like anybody else. And, we depend 100% on donations to enable us to collect and preserve this history. So it's just like, if you have a museum of natural history or an art museum in your community, it's not a whole lot different from that, in that, you can just donate money, you can get a membership, and there are benefits, to membership, like free admission, and there's some thank you gifts and things. It's just like NPR's pledge drive in that respect. It's just our gifts are a hell of a lot cooler than NPR's. So yeah, donations through our website, and memberships through our website. As you said, we also have a gift shop. I was at a leather event this past weekend and was kind of telling everybody it's really cool because you can give us money and show us your support. That's awesome. Or you can buy a t-shirt that announces to the world that your daddy's little cum dump, and also support us. So we've got really cool shirts and merchandise that both helps to advertise LA&M and gets our name out there, but also, of course, the money that comes in from that supports us as well. So through that, we are a 501c3, so all of this is tax deductible, which is awesome. Even just shopping on Amazon, Amazon has their Smile program, so you can go to smile.amazon.com, and if you designate LA&M as your charity, we get, I think it's like 1% of everything you buy. So it doesn't cost you anything. It's Amazon's contribution that they make to charities. So yeah, really awesome ways like that.
That is a really powerful way, because every freaking body shops.
God, I know, right? It's like, what have we done through COVID except spend money on Amazon? So.
Absolutely, that's something I'm going to really promote in our group community.
That adds up, because that costs us nothing. It costs you nothing to do it. It's totally driven through Amazon. They'll just match whatever you buy, as long as you designate beforehand, LA&M as your charity of choice. And really any program, there are lots of programs like that. Employers, that have matching gifts programs, which is always kind of funny. People are always kind of surprised, but we're a 501c3. So, we get matching gifts from every company, from Microsoft to Disney to what's the other we just got? Target. So yeah, if your employer does that, we're eligible for gifts through that. So yeah, all kinds of creative ways. And I think, for most people, if you just kind of think about it, that even though we're a hell of a lot cooler and a lot sexier, we're at the end of the day just like any nonprofit, and there's so many ways you can support charitable organizations in your community and the work that we do like that. And the last thing I'll say, which nobody really likes to talk about, but we're all going to die eventually, and hopefully later rather than sooner. But we also have a planned giving program. So a lot of people in our community don't have a lot of money. We don't have the ability to give a lot when we're alive, but you can make a bequest to LA&M as with any organization as part of your will and your estate documents, and that's just a wonderful way of giving back after you're gone. So there's lots of information about that on our website, and with that especially, we always ask that people who do make a planned gift as part of their will to let us know, just so we can thank them now, because once we get the money from you, we're not going to be able to thank you because you're dead. But if people let us know, it's just a great way to acknowledge us. And again, especially for places like this, I mean, myself included, I don't have the financial resources to give a lot of money. But I know when I die, I'm no longer going to need money, so I'm able to make a gift in that manner to the organization. So yeah, lots and lots and lots of ways, and also time. Volunteers are always welcome, and we do have some virtual volunteer projects that people can work on that help us with our digital work. So anybody who's interested in volunteering some time is welcome to reach out, and we can talk about different opportunities that way.
Perfect. I really appreciate it. I hope that the FTK community comes together for you and helps donate, helps spread the message, and definitely gets their butt ups and come see you.
Absolutely.
It was an absolute pleasure to meet you. I cannot wait to meet you in person. I think we're going to try to take a trip in the fall to come up there.
Oh, so, awesome.
And I really appreciate everything you guys do. If you need anything from us, or if you ever have something that you want to get out or promote, like I said, I mean, between all of our avenues, we're almost 17,000 strong now. I will do it anytime. Absolutely guaranteed.
Fantastic. That's awesome. Yeah, and absolutely encourage everybody to, especially now that the world's opening back up again, and you're able to travel again. Chicago. I mean, Chicago's just a great city anyway. It's, for a big city, it's affordable. It's very leather friendly, very kink friendly. There's just lots of great spaces, so much to do here, and yeah, definitely stop by and visit when you're.
Yeah, I can't wait to come and see you and have a slice of Giordano's and just relax for a little bit. I haven't been to Chi-Town in about 12 years, so
yeah.
I miss it.
Awesome. Long overdue.
Listen, thank you, Gary, so very much. And if you need anything, you reach out to us.
Absolutely. It's a pleasure. Thanks so much, everybody.
Okay. You too. Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye.